Today marks 1342nd day share lessons to learn and continue to learn with you. I hope that these insights will inspire you, support your dreams, help achieve your goals, and really empower you to become the person that you want to become. Yesterday I was sharing about weeds and flowers, and you do not know, and we do not know at the beginning of our journey what seeds are, is a flower, is a weed. But today I want to speak about when those seeds grow. When you know there's a flower, or it's a weed, when you need to plug that weed out. I think that sometimes it's not that easy to do that because we get used to that weed. Sometimes we just hard to understand it's a weed. Maybe we start to believe that weed will become somehow a flower. And it's very hard to remove pluck out those weeds. That is bad habits, that's bad relationships, toxic relationships, some kind of routines. And I think that some kind of routines could be neutral. And I think we get attached to it. But we need to understand that we have a question to ask. What habits, patterns, relationships doesn't serve us anymore? Including beliefs. Including beliefs. And I think that's beliefs are a very interesting topic. I will not get into that. But regarding visualization and law of attraction, I think that one of the main reasons why some people are very good at it and some people are bad at it and don't believe in a law of attraction. And if you don't believe in law of attraction, but you want law of attraction, of course, it will never happen. Because I truly believe that you attract what you believe in and who you are, not what you want to believe. And this is a massive, massive difference, but I will not get into that. So today we'll share really how to find the courage to pluck those weeds, to remove those weeds, that habits, routines, beliefs, relationships that doesn't serve us anymore. So number one, and probably the most important lesson that you really need to understand to really find the courage to make that decision is really see the cost of those weeds. The cost of the weeds. And I don't speak about financial costs, even though that could be a big thing as well, but I think that the biggest cost is emotional. Alternative costs. So that means if you are keeping this relationship happen, that means you are alternatively not opening the doors for another relationship. I'm not speaking just about romantic relations. I'm speaking about the friendships. I'm speaking about business relationships. I'm speaking with any kind of relations that potentially could bring more joy, even mentorship. Potentially, if you attach to one mentor and say, like, this mentor solved me everything, but most likely not. We need to have ability to say, like, is this mentor is actually growing? If it's developing, because, of course, I think that one of the best mentors is who has a lot of mentors by himself. Because if you're mentoring a person and you're not mentored, maybe something is not working there. So that means that weeds could be. I think that there's one thing is that even the flowers that were very beautiful at some point could become weeds, because if a flower doesn't produce any more really flowers anymore, it then becomes a weed. So sometimes you need to ask, like, what kind of habits doesn't produce anymore? What kind of beliefs doesn't produce anymore? What kind of relationships doesn't produce energy? Because sometimes if it drains our energy, it's very easy to say that this relationship drains my energy, and we're supposed to remove that as a weed, even though that we need to appreciate that relationship. But of course, we need to understand that if this doesn't serve you or other person anymore, it's time to really plug that out. And then you need to understand that there's a massive cost. And then what happens if you keep doing that for a year? And so that's number two. I think that is very, very important. Reframe letting go as making space. Such a beautiful reframe letting go as making space. Probably one of the easiest examples is I really love that is that when you have a cup, and in that cup there is some kind of drink. Let's say that's Coke, or maybe there's a coffee. That means if you want to drink water, what do you need to do? If there's a full cup of coffee, that means that you will need to remove that coffee, remove that energy drink, remove that drink that you have to really have room for healthy water. I think that's exactly the same thing is with weeds. If you want to have beautiful flowers in our garden, in our mind, in our lives, what we need to do is remove the weeds so that we have the room for beautiful things. And I think that's again, we need to And I think that one of the biggest things regarding habits is that sometimes people want to remove bad habits before understanding what they will put that in that place in. That, oh, I want you to stop playing games for 5 hours, but what you would do with it? Do you have a healthy habits? Because it's very hard to remove things, but it's much easier to change things. And that means that okay, like I want to remove habits of my life and bring flowers into my life. I better beliefs, better habits, better relations into my life. So of course, it's very important to understand that removing is making space for something better. I think that's the third thing that is very important is identify the root fear. I think it's a beautiful thing because sometimes we can really be afraid of change. Sometimes we can be afraid of loneliness. And I think that we sometimes we feel that we do not have resourcefulness. Maybe we don't fear of rejection. There's so many fears that potentially is underneath of that potentially keeping those weeds in our life, those habits, those relationships, those beliefs. So what are the fears that's stopping us from really making that decision to change, to improve, to get better, to really make that space for better habits? I think it's such an important, really, topic to ask. Okay, what do I fear the most right now? Because I think that's every single person has a fear of change, but sometimes people became so comfortable with that fear that it doesn't make them even blink. Because I always said that I love the rating. So when you think about from 1 to 10, what is your fear? From 1 to 10, what is your courage? And then people are able to reduce that fear to 1, and I barely feel it anymore. Number 4 is start small. That means that when you look into your habits and you look into beliefs, when you look into relations, it might be there's a lot of weeds in your life right now. And you're not able to really come into your life and pluck everything out. And I think that if you start to pluck everything out, we potentially start to pluck the things that is actually serving you. You'll pluck the flowers together with those weeds. So being able to really focus on one thing at a time and really slowly pluck one at a time, grabbing one habit at a time, I think is much better approach. So starting small is like there's a lot of habits that doesn't serve me anymore. So which habit is the biggest bottleneck for me right now? Which relationship is the biggest bottleneck right now for me? I really sometimes let's say that maybe you see that there's a one relationship. But rather than really removing immediately that, it sometimes could be too hard to really do that. Maybe I could really, rather than spending 5 days a week, maybe I could really do 4 days a week, maybe 3 days a week, maybe 2 days a week. Sometimes limit that habit could be much better. Regarding like very simple example of food. So that I want to lose weight, I don't want to eat that unhealthy food. So maybe before eating that unhealthy food, maybe I'm able to add a little bit of healthy food. And then slowly transition. Because when you start to see the results of eating healthy food, you get more inspiration to do the right thing. And then you slowly transition between those habits from unhealthy habit to healthy habit. Number 5, I think that is again very important, is get support. So when removing weeds, sometimes it's great to ask for advice to understand that the weeds that you're removing is actually the weeds that you need to be removed. And I think sometimes you get that lessons about the weeds, maybe, and you realize that okay, like sometimes when you look into like your life and look into like the flowers and the weeds, sometimes it's hard to recognize which ones are the flowers that didn't bloom yet and which ones are just weeds, because both are greens, but one will produce some flowers and the other one doesn't produce anything. So at the beginning of our lives, I think that when we develop ourselves, sometimes we have difficult to understand what is what. So having a mentor who have been more advanced in the career, in the skill, in the relationships, be able to ask a question. So like I'm doing those kind of habits. I have those kind of habits, those things that I do, those kind of relationships I have. What do you feel could help me the most? What things do you think I need to remove? So being able to have the conversation, open conversation, and be open to listen, I think that could potentially really help massively in removing weeds and have the clarity in our lives. Number 6, and I think this is one of the key as well, even though it's 6, but it's supposed to be one of the first ones, is focus on your reason, or what people say is focus on your why. Why do you want to really feel lighter? Why do you want to have energy? What's the reason behind it? Because I think that when you have that full call and dedication for your life, it's much easier to really say that I need to make this decision sooner than later. I have that urgency because I have that dedication for my life. I have a calling, I have a vision, I have aspirations. And if I want to really achieve those visions, I need to remove those weeds. I need to make space for better habits. I need, and I want to. I think that is a beautiful thing. When you know your reason, you will be more willing to go through all those fears that you have more courage, and really have urgency to really do the right thing right now rather than thinking and procrastinating for the future. And I think that last one, and this again works with every single thing in life, is practice self-compassion. And sometimes we can potentially have that regret. Why I planted those seeds, those weed seeds in the first place? Because when those weeds grow, when those bad habits start to bring some results that you do not like, you start to see like in the question why I was able to make that happen. Why? I think that the question is not helpful at all. It doesn't solve the problem. So what we need to ask, what do I need to do now? I love the question. So we do not care why we plant the seed. What we care about, what do we do now with that? We need to pluck that weed out and understand that this kind of seed leads to this kind of result, and not planting that seed again. Because if you do not reflect, we will plant the same seed and it will have exactly the same result one more time. So reflect, get better, understand, be grateful that you learned, that you got stronger, you get better, you develop the character, and now you're understanding that what do I need now? And I think that's one of the most beautiful questions, but because it brings people in present moment, people who are lost in the past will bring back. So because it's like, what do I need to do now? Okay, now, what do I need to do now? And people bring from the future. Some people are thinking about future and they are not thinking what they need to do now. So one of the most beautiful questions, always said it, one of the most beautiful questions that we're able to ask ourselves is what I'm able to do now. And of course, at that moment we said that I need to remove this weed. And that's what I need to do. So in summary, there is 7 steps they said. So recognize the cost, reframe letting go as growth, name your fear, start small, learn on support, focus on your reason, and be gentle with yourself. So those are the most important things when you think about really removing those habits, removing those beliefs, removing those relationships that doesn't serve you anymore. So I hope you choose to win and see you tomorrow.